Welcome to Horror Movies and Beyond, a show reviewing horror movies for the living to understand the dead. I am here with Jeff Tucker, a really cool, awesome guy. And Jeff Tucker, tell me a little about yourself.
Well, I host my own podcast called 91 Reasons, which is all over the place as far as what the topics are. We go from movies to trips to family stories to whatever. I also work at Not Scary Farm, where I'm part of the creative team. So I help create all the monster stuff that you see, and I work on the shows, and you name it. I also helped create Trapped, which was one of the greatest haunt mazes ever. So.
Yes, I remember that maze. That maze was amazing.
Thank you. And I love scary movies. I've been watching scary movies ever since my babysitter put The Exorcist on when my mother went to church. So I've been screwed up for years.
Okay, and today's topic is reboots and remakes. Whys and why nots? Why is all these remakes? Why? Everybody's trying to figure out, every time they go to the movies, it's another of the same thing. And we're going to discuss that. So the discussion we're going to talk about is, while these remakes would benefit, if they do, for horror movies, is Hollywood running out of ideas? Has the film industry lost its way? And the difference between reboots and remakes, because a lot of people don't know that. So we're going to talk about what is the difference between reboots and remakes. So you can go first. What do you?
Well, a reboot is, let's say you have a movie that has a lot of sequels. Friday the 13th is a great example. Which they're never going to get to 13. Doesn't that bother you? That was always the promise, right? Like, someday I'm going to go to the theater and go see Friday the 13th, and it's never going to happen. Because they keep starting over in a reboot. Yeah. Where they reboot the story and start it over from scratch, you know? Mm-hmm. But, like, have they reboot Friday the 13th yet? Or did it ever come out?
Yes, they did. Friday the 13th, 2009.
2009.
And I can't even remember if I saw it. I've seen every movie. But I don't even remember if I saw it. I probably just glanced over.
Because I would guess if they reboot it, they're just going to ignore the mom, right?
Yeah.
Because a lot of people don't realize in the first Friday the 13th, the killer is, spoiler alert, Jason's mom. Yeah. Jason doesn't even show up till 2 seconds at the end, and then shows up in earnest in part 2 wearing like a bag over his head, right? He didn't have the hockey mask till way late in the franchise, right? Yeah. But we're so used to the hockey mask image that that's what they want. So I'm sure the reboot, I didn't see it. Who cares? But I'm sure that within 10 minutes, he hacked people up and was wearing a hockey mask, right? So that's a reboot. A remake is where they take the movie and they just do it all over again, right? The biggest example of this, you ever heard of a horror movie called Funny Games?
No.
It's a foreign film where these two guys knock on a door. They're real preppy-looking guys. And they just terrorize this family in an invasion, home robbery, murder for like 2 hours. Well, the director came to America and remade the same exact movie, almost shot for shot. You imagine, like, you've done big projects. Imagine finishing that and going, you know what I'm going to do tomorrow? I'm going to start over and do the same exact movie again. But yet, that does happen.
Yeah.
And same with, like, Gus Van Sant's Psycho. That's a total remake. Yeah. You know, not a reboot. They're different.
Yeah. Other examples is Cabin Fever. Ugh, I'm not even going to get into that. Evil Dead. Evil Dead is a... I enjoyed the remake. That was a remake.
Of Evil Dead.
Yes.
Well, at least at the end, they acknowledged the Bruce Campbell aspect of it, right?
Yes.
And that's what we're all waiting for, because as scary as Evil Dead is, and that's a scary movie. When that chick splits her own tongue, like, that's hard to watch, right? But the thing missing was, because Evil Dead 2 was arguably a remake of the Evil Dead 1. Because Evil Dead 1 they had no money. Yeah, it was made for 10 cents. Yeah. It was Sam Raimi terrorizing people for like 3 weeks, right? So the second one, they got some money and made the same movie. But that's okay, because Bruce Campbell is so charming in it. I mean, you ever seen a movie where a guy's arguing with his own hand? I mean, that's great.
Yes.
Great movie.
People think I've came across some people where they think reboots and remakes is kind of like a 2000s thing. They've been doing that since the 20s because a lot of the movies became talkies.
Yeah.
So they had to remake them so they can hear dialogue.
Right.
And to them back then, remakes and reboots were from books and literature. So it necessarily wasn't from a movie. It was just like, we get to see what Frankenstein looked like. We get to see, so they wanted to remake it so we can actually hear the dialogue.
You know what it is? This is if you're under 18, stop watching. You know what it is? It's like when people discover sex for the first time, they're like, I'm going to do something to this person they've never seen before. And you just want to lean in and go, it's all been done, man. There's nothing you're going to do that hasn't been done already. And that's the same with movies. Like, every generation goes, you know, this is they made this before. I can't believe it. Like, this is the same people who go, I can't believe Titanic really happened. Right?
Yeah.
You can never underestimate the stupidity of the American movie-going audience, right? But have you ever watched a movie where something happens and you go, this violates every rule that the movie just set up? Mm-hmm. How can they do this, right? Not an example would be, it's not a horror movie, but it's a terrible movie. You ever seen the Stepford? I mean, it's kind of a horror movie. The Stepford Wives remake.
Yes.
In the Stepford
With
Wives,
Nicole Kidman. Yeah.
Right? And Matthew Broderick, and it was
Yes.
directed by Frank Oz of all people, right? Miss Piggy and Yoda, but like in the movie, it's about guys who moved to Stepford and then replace their wives with robots. Mm-hmm. And now their wives are perfect, right? Mm-hmm. And that's the movie. It's a horror movie. And halfway through the movie, Matthew Broderick shows Nicole Kidman the robot her that's going to be replacing her, right? Mm-hmm. And then at the end of the movie, they're like cyborgs that are human with robot implants. And I just wanted to go, did you guys watch the movie you made? Mm-hmm. Because they just figure, nobody cares. We're just going to turn in this way, you know? I hate that.
So,
like, I'm trying to interrupt.
Oh, okay.
Did you love Cabin in the Woods?
Yeah, you know what? I loved it to the end.
I loved it up until the point where they go, what button opens every cage in the zoo? Why would you have that? And it's next to where the guy puts his coffee. Like, can you imagine there's the night guy's like, man, there's nothing going on. I've got a demon and a wraith and a poltergeist. And he puts his coffee down and suddenly they're let loose. That's the one part I was like, I don't get that button. Why would there be a button that lets every monster loose? Because up until that point, that movie was fantastic. And that's a movie that I encouraged all of my friends to go see because you have to support originality or all we're going to get are reboots and remakes.
That is true. So we're going to talk a little bit about one of the most famous remakes or reboots, depends on how you look at it. It's The Fly. That came out in 1958 and it was reboot in 1986. And it also had a part 2 in 89, but also the 1958 version, The Return of the Fly and The Curse of the Fly. So, and it was directed by Kurt Newman, and the actors were David Hiddleston, Patrick Owens, and Vincent Price for 1958. And the newer one was Jeff Goldblum, who was an unknown actor, and his girlfriend at the time was Gina Davis.
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed the 1958. I mean, it was really at the time scary. It was scary for me. It had some hilarious points to it, but I thought it was well written for what it was at the time. Especially Vincent Price was really like this known horror icon, even at that time. So when they did the remake, I saw the remake first before I saw the original, and I thought that was perfection. Like, for me, in my opinion, I thought
the remake. You mean?
The remake was perfection.
No.
If you're going to remake something or reboot it, that is what you do.
The remake of The Fly is a perfect example of taking a great idea that maybe in the 50s they didn't have the money to do right, or because in the original version they swap heads, right? And you end up with that help me and the guy in the web, right? And then Vincent Price has the big fly mask on and the clipper, right? And back then, I mean, that's scary. That movie gave kids nightmares for years. fast forward 30 years, that's not gonna, pardon the term, fly anymore, right? So, but I remember going to the theater to see the remake of The Fly, because this is back when I was a teenager, so I saw every movie in the theater, right? Mm-hmm. The Fly is terrifying because it was presented like you go to the, if you watch a movie and you go to the lobby and your friends are like, that could totally happen, man. You know what I mean? Like, there could be a teleportation. I'm never teleporting anywhere, man. And you're like, it's a movie. No, The Fly. And the fact that Goldblum, like, disintegrates over the course of the movie.
Yes.
That scene where he opens up the medicine cabinet.
Yeah, and you see the parts of his body.
It's like a museum of him, right?
Yeah.
And he's like taking his teeth out and stuff, and you're like, that's effed up. And then they amp it up even more with that dream, because the dream sequence was shown in the trailer.
Yeah.
The one where Gina Davis has the maggot as a baby, right?
Yes.
And I think that's Cronenberg as the doctor.
Yeah.
And that scared the living hell out of everybody. That moment when he pulls that maggot out of her and she wakes up and you're like, I gotta get out.
Yeah.
You know? And then what's great about that movie is you actually care about Seth Brundle, the character.
Yeah, you do.
He's
You
a
actually
great
do.
character. And Goldblum's so, I mean, Goldblum is Goldblum. He's so charismatic,
Yes.
right? And that sequence where, because here's the thing, he's also right. The teleporter works. If the Fly hadn't gotten in, he would have just bopped into the next chamber and everything would be fine, right?
Yeah.
But at the end, when he puts the gun to his head, like, that's a great horror movie. It's a traditional horror movie in the sense of, like, Frankenstein, where you feel for the monster.
Yeah.
And you're like, this guy is just trying to do the right thing. He screwed up. Like, Freddy Krueger's a child molester. He's never going to get any points, right? But Frankenstein didn't ask for it. The Fly, Seth Brundle, was trying to do the right thing. So when he dies, like, you're left feeling kind of hollow.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. He was one of those characters where you just completely felt sorry for him.
Yeah.
And at
And
the end,
you know what's great is some movies, and this is so nerdy of me, some movies stick with me forever. Like, there's a movie called Defending Your Life, which is about facing your fear. And anytime I'm faced with something that I'm a little nervous about, and I don't really get nervous anymore, I go, I want to be able to advance to the next level of the universe if I don't do this, right? So you just do it, right? And the thing that from The Fly, do you remember the scene where she opens his closet and he's got 7 of the same outfits, and he goes, oh, this is what Einstein used to do, because he never gave any thought to what he was going to wear, because it's wasted brain power. And I'm like, I should totally do that. I would do that if I had the money, right? It's just funny what you carry with you.
Yeah.
And from the moment I saw that on the screen, I mean, that's 32 years ago. And every time I go to get dressed, I go, I should just have 7 of the same outfit. But
well, I saw that in the drive-in. And,
oh, that's cool.
Yeah. They're still around.
Yeah, we go to drive-in. There's one in Riverside. We go all the time.
Yeah.
It's fun.
It's a little different now, but I saw that in the drive-in and I was terrified. So
yeah. Oh yeah. No, it's scary.
Yeah. So the next movie is Texas Chainsaw Massacre that came out in 1974. And it was remade in 2003 with rising star Jessica Biel, and it was a remake, I believe.
Yeah.
It was kind of the same element, but back then it was unknown actors. They were trying to really give to the story, and also the whole Leatherface, which was supposed to be head cheese, but he changed it. Toby Hooper.
Yeah.
There we go. He changed it because it just sounds
head cheese.
But the whole idea of Leatherface, he said he was watching the news and he just saw all this horrible stuff that was going on, and he said the really scary person is man. So they carry all these different faces.
Yeah.
So that's where Leatherface came in.
Well, the Chainsaw movie it was inspired by Ed Gein.
Yeah.
The serial killer.
Yeah, some of the events in 74, and the character was inspired by Ed Gein, but the whole different mask was just how scary the world was to him.
The reason Chainsaw, the original, is so scary is that they couldn't show a lot back then. The effects weren't very good.
No.
So it's easier to scare people with what they're thinking about than what they're seeing.
Yes.
That's the ultimate scare. And that's why the Chainsaw Massacre is so effective, because stuff happens on screen, stuff happens off screen. Plus, that poor girl at the dinner table is being completely terrified. For real. Like, it's not fake. Mm-hmm. Nobody can act like that. And I think he terrorized her on purpose to get that performance out of her. When you move forward, like, you ever see Texas Chainsaw 2?
Yes.
You know, people don't realize it's a comedy. Toby Hooper was hired to make a sequel, and he was like, well, I'm just going to make a social commentary goofball movie. Mm-hmm. And you know that going in because the poster was a parody of The Breakfast Club. And nobody picked up on that, right? And you got that guy with the hanger digging at his head, and like you said, man's the worst, because in the sequel, Dennis Hopper, who plays the sheriff, he's the worst guy in the whole movie, right?
Yes.
But then they just kept making them, and right? Didn't they make one with Matthew McConaughey and what's that woman who oh, this is terrible, who had all the plastic surgery?
Oh, Renee Zellweger.
She doesn't look like herself anymore.
That was number 3, I think.
Yeah.
Number 3 or 4. I can't remember exactly which one she is, but yeah, I saw that too, and yeah.
But you know what?
But they just
I think the Chainsaw Massacre franchise is so viable that, boy, if somebody gave me a shot at making that, I would totally make it, right? Mm-hmm. I would love to see a really effed up, scary, give it to Rob Zombie, right?
Yeah.
That's his style of movie. I mean,
mm-hmm.
the House of a Thousand Corpses are a lot like Texas Chainsaw. When they gave him Halloween, I was shocked. I'm like, Halloween is more elegant. Mm-hmm. Michael Myers is slow and methodical, and he doesn't talk or do quips. He doesn't like stab you and go, get the point. He doesn't do that kind of crap. But Leatherface is almost like a comedic character, you know? Mm-hmm. Scary stuff, man.
Well, since we're talking about Halloween, that's one on my list here. We might as well go straight into
because they're rebooting it again.
I don't know. Okay, the original came out in 78, yeah. And Jamie Lee Curtis was an unknown actress at the time. And the remake, I really enjoyed Rob Zombie's version. I mean, I think that came out in 2007, and then he did the second one in 2009. And I think what it did, it gave a perspective as him growing up,
right,
of who he really was.
For my taste, that's where you go off the rails, because the scariest characters in cinema, Michael Myers, mm-hmm. Darth Vader, Hannibal Lecter, mm-hmm. we don't know their story, and that's why they scare us, because mm-hmm. you're like, that could be anybody. That mm-hmm. guy's scary. And then you go like, oh, by the way, Darth Vader was once a kid who went, yippee, and raced around, right? Right? And nobody saw the Hannibal Lecter one, but the Hannibal Lecter one, like, he watched his sister get eaten by the Nazis and this and that, and then he went to Paris, and you're like, I just want him to be Dr. Lecter and talk about killing people, right? I think that's where the TV show got it right. It's like, just show him alongside the FBI as an adult, this kid stuff. And I think, to Zombie's credit, he made 2 solid movies. Mm-hmm. But asking the audience to sympathize with Michael Myers, that's a little weird. You know what I mean? He's a killer guy.
I can see the point, but I think he was just trying to show where he came from, or how he got this way. Because in the end, when I saw the second one, it just really, he was so brutal. I mean, in the first one, he was just silent and just blank face because he had a mask on. Yeah. And he would just stand there, and then, you were got, or you didn't know he was coming, and you just got a blade,
Yeah. Did you see Baby Driver?
No.
In Baby Driver, they commit this big heist, and the guy goes, I want you to go to the Halloween stores and get Michael Myers masks, because we're going to wear those for the heist. And when he shows up, he's got Austin Powers masks. And the guy goes, you said get Michael Myers. That's Michael Myers. And he goes, oh, I guess you're right. But that's very funny, But I mean, Halloween is such, God, you talk about iconic movies, right? Yeah. The second one was almost unnecessary. It doesn't do anything new in the franchise. I mean, it kills him. Yeah. He gets killed at the end. And then, like, if you see behind us, I'm a big fan of Halloween 3. Yeah. Just because it's so different. Yeah. And, again, if you're a horror film and a horror movie comes out that's not a remake and not a reboot and is totally original, go see it. Support it so that filmmaker can then make more of those. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, all we're going to get is remakes and reboots. I mean, what's interesting is that they do these movies where this is the end, this is the final Saw, until the next one, and then Saw's back. And you're like, but we said goodbye, yeah. You know? And then the last Child's Play went direct to video, right?
Yeah, none of those are reboots or remakes. So
they're just sequels.
They're just sequels. But there is talk that they want to reboot it, but I don't know about that, because the first one was just, I think, was really amazing for what it was. I mean, Tom Holland, who I met, I would be devastated if they remake that, because it just has its own suspense. You thought it was kind of the kid who was doing the murder until you find, when she pulled the doll underneath, from underneath the couch, yeah. And then it was just like, you better, tell me, who you are, or what's going on. And then finally, he just went berserk. Yeah. And I think that it was a great build-up.
Well, hey, I grew up in the 80s, man. The My Buddy doll. Yeah. Remember My Buddy? Mm-hmm. I mean, that's what it's based on, right? Yeah. My Buddy was terrifying. They marketed this doll to boys as like, you don't need a Cabbage Patch Kid, you want My Buddy. Yeah. And I swear, we used to make fun like, you got a My Buddy? What's wrong with you? That thing's gonna kill you. And then Child's Play was announced. We're like, it's the My Buddy movie, man! And Brad Dourif.
Yes.
A fantastic actor, totally underrated. Mm-hmm. Doesn't get the credit that he deserves.
Yes.
His initial performance and then his voice work as Chucky are fantastic. I wish they'd kept going. I wish that, I wish that at the end of each movie they didn't blow the doll up. I wish he would just get away so that we could have another Chucky movie that doesn't have to do with witchcraft or him getting sucked back in the doll or whatever it is, right?
Well, did you see Curse of Chucky?
Which is that the last one?
That's the last.
No,
the Cult. The Cult.
Cult of Chucky.
The Cult of Chucky.
Well, they were in a insane asylum trying to tell her that nothing happened. Yeah. And then they go, here's a Chucky doll to prove that nothing happened, right?
But you haven't seen that.
No, I think that's brilliant, man. I love it. I wish real psychiatrists were like, the thing you fear, it's right here, and there's nothing to fear. Because my daughter's afraid of chickens. So I'd love to be in a place where they bring in a live chicken and like throw it at her. Wouldn't that be great? They could film it. That'd be a TV show. Well, it is. Doesn't Ellen and Dr. Phil do that? Or, no, Maury. Remember Maury? There was a girl afraid of dolphins. So a guy came out dressed as a dolphin and like chased her around. You're like, I can't believe I'm watching this. It's like the Roman gladiator empire. I'm derailing you. I'm so sorry. It's okay. I'm so sorry.
But if you haven't seen The Cult of Chucky, please
get it.
Please see it.
Support it.
Wait, have you seen it?
No, I want to see it.
No, okay, because I won't say anything about it. But it
doesn't bother me. Spoilers don't bother me.
Oh,
here's the thing. I'm one of those weird people. You can tell me that Rosebud's a sled, and I'm still going to enjoy Citizen Kane.
Okay.
My family gets all edgy about spoilers, but I grew up reading. I used to like Fangoria and Starlog were my Bibles, and Fangoria was every week, every month. Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god! Like I didn't care if it spoiled the movie. Like when they announced and showed Pumpkinhead, the movie that Stan Winston directed, I was like, oh my god! Look at the way he looks. Well, you're spoiling. I don't care. Look at the way he looks.
So we're going to get to another very big classic, The Thing. Now, The Thing from Another World came in 1951, and it was based on a book, Who Goes There? And that came out in 1938. And so they did a reboot, John Carpenter did in 82. And then they did a prequel, not a remake. People think it's a remake. No.
Prequel.
No, it's a prequel.
It's supposed to be
in 2011.
I didn't see it, but it's the other installation where the dog gets out, right?
Yeah, it explains where the hell that dog come from. That's a
completely unnecessary
movie.
I
mean, it's not unnecessary, but it explains quite a bit. But also, the monster that's in the prequel is actually close to what the monster actually looked like in the book.
Okay.
So they kind of actually read the book.
But wasn't the original movie, I don't know, I have to look, wasn't it an analogy of communism? Like, you don't know who the enemy is, he's hiding in all of us, and it could be you, it could be you, it could be you.
Well, I mean, if you look at it that way.
Yeah, because that's what I always got out of it. And I'm not sure, like, when they did the remake, you know, those of us who love horror movies always followed John Carpenter, right? Carpenter was God. And The Thing, I love Escape from New York. Mm-hmm. I love Prince of Darkness, right? I love all the John Carpenter movies. They Live, oh my God. But I think The Thing is his most solid studio picture. It's so well constructed and has so many amazing character moments that at the end, when Kurt Russell and the other guy are just sort of sitting there staring, you really are, you're into it. Mm-hmm. It could go another hour of just them sitting there waiting for the monster to come out, and we'd all watch it. Yeah. When it pulls away and ends, you're like, oh damn, it's over. And that's the sign of a really well-made movie.
Yes, it is. Now the prequel actually kind of explained quite a bit. If you remember, in the '82 version, when I just know their name, Copper and MacReady.
Yeah, MacReady.
Yeah. They went to the Norwegian outpost and they wanted to see what happened. And you go there and it's like, oh my God, you see this guy with a slit wrist and the place is just burnt down. And then you see this creature out in the snow and then you see axes here and there in the walls and you're kind of like, well, what the hell happened? And I think the prequel kind of wanted to touch on that because they actually wanted to do a remake of the original, but the studio was like, hell no. No.
Good for them, right?
They wouldn't give up the right to do that. So we'll do a prequel. And I think that was kind of their way of showing, okay, since we can't do a remake, we'll show what happened there. Yeah. And to me, I didn't really care too much of the alien because it was kind of a little bit more, it was a lot of CG. Of course, 2011 is going to be CG. But I think the creature didn't hide itself as well as the first one. Well, not the first one, but
it has to hide itself because special effects weren't up to snuff the way they are.
I mean, but it made it more suspenseful.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, again, when you put restrictions on the director, the movie gets better. Yeah. If the shark had worked in Jaws, it wouldn't have been the same movie. No. We would have seen this stupid shark attacking everybody instead of doo-doo, doo-doo. I mean, it's the dread, the anticipation that gets you into it. And when you finally show the monster, well, all the cards are on the table. Like when that guy's head grows legs and walks away, that's all practical, right? Yeah. And doesn't the guy go, give me an effing break here, right? Even the guy in the movie's like, no effing way. And the head's like, right? But you never forget that. Or when he puts his hands in the chest cavity and it clamps him, that's all practical. It's all scary. With CGI, you can do anything you want. So there's a huge disconnect. And here's the biggest kicker. You and I go to the movies, and we see something amazing, and we go, it's CGI. And then some guy goes, no, I spent 3 years building that. It really exists, look. And you go, it's CGI. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like, it's just so blasé now. Because when I was a teenager, I idolized Rob Bottin, who did all the effects in The Thing, and Tom Savini, and all Dick Smith, all of the makeup guys that I looked at in Fangoria and they showed them doing and making the creatures. The creatures were all real. Chris Wallace, who did the original Gremlins and then did the Fly. Yeah. All that stuff's amazing, And nowadays it's all just CGI, And I remember seeing a really funny display of like, here's the Hellraiser cube, and it's really there, right? And here's Michael Myers' mask, and it's really Captain Kirk's mask. And they go, here's a monster from the Phantom Menace, and it's a big green ball. Because it's just a ball that they move around on set so that somebody can go, oh, the monster, you know what I mean?
Well, I want to say that there was a movie I watched, actually, with my boyfriend, that actually paid homage to The Thing, and that was Quentin Tarantino's The Hateful Eight. And Kurt Russell was the star.
Yeah, oh yeah.
He actually used the same music, the same composer did the movie.
The same snowed in. Everybody's got a secret.
Yeah.
We don't know who's working for who.
And I thought that was amazing. But when he did Reservoir Dogs, he also it was very influenced by The Thing too. So basically, The Thing for him is something that
it's a watershed movie.
Yeah, it's like something amazing.
It's like he also was into the taking of Pelham 123, the original. Because you know when the Reservoir Dogs are walking in slow motion, that's directly taken from Pelham 123. And speaking of Hateful Eight, you want to see like Jennifer Jason Leigh gets so beat up in that movie. It's really hard to watch, even though she's a terrible person, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But have you seen the sequence where he destroys her guitar?
Yeah.
And if you watch it, the look on her face is genuine because that guitar was borrowed from a museum.
Oh, wow.
It's an actual artifact that's supposed to be returned, and Kurt Russell just destroys it, and you see Jennifer Jason Leigh going, "That's all real." And when they yell cut, they're like, "That's you've just destroyed a priceless antique," and you're like, "Yeah, so awesome!" Like nobody thought to tell him.
But he, also, Quentin Tarantino said that when he was making the Hateful Eight, it was his feelings of when he was watching The Thing. So everything that was going on. When they got shot in the balls, it was like busting his balls. Like kind of what he said, like how the movie made him felt is the emotions that you see in Hateful Eight.
Yeah. Plus, I mean, they have to go out in the snow with the rope.
The ropes.
I mean, it's all real. I didn't even put that together. How fascinating! I'm gonna watch it again now because I just watched The Thing not that long ago.
So we actually have a few more, but we'll talk about Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah. Here's the thing. I love Nightmare on Elm Street.
That movie came out in '84, and they did a reboot in 2010. And I saw it, and to me, it looks like I thought Chris Hansen was going to have him take a seat. It was pedophile.
Yeah.
Ish.
Which is odd because the pedophile nature of the Krueger character isn't even mentioned until like an hour in. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like the mom goes, he took all those children and he murdered them and stuff. And then we found him and we burned him. Like, oh, so it's your fault. Okay, you're a monster, right? The mom did it, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. And what's interesting is that I think here's the thing. I like to say, if they had it to do all over again, which they do because they own the character, and they double down on the pedophile stuff instead of like, come up with something else that he did. He made a deal with the devil because... I mean, here's the thing. Freddy Krueger starts out, and the first film is terrifying.
Yeah.
All the dream stuff, the elongated arms, the staircase where she can't get up.
Yeah.
All that dream stuff is so flawless, right? Yeah. And by the end, Freddy's dead, the final nightmare. He has a power glove. And he's killing a kid in a video game going, now you're playing with power. You're like, he's a pedophile. You guys made him a pedophile, right? And it's like they forgot. Because the character became so popular. He transcended the movies. You know, Nightmare on Elm Street 1, 84. Nightmare on Elm Street 2, 85. Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors was, I think, 86 or 87.
And I think that was one of the best ones.
Oh, Dream Warriors is fantastic.
Yeah,
because it went back and got Heather Langenkamp back and her dad, right, John Saxon. Because have you ever seen the second one?
Yeah.
Have you ever?
And you really don't see him that much. You see the kid. He's claimed as his son, but
yeah, right. But the director finally admitted, he's like, oh yeah, it's a complete analogy of a guy coming out as gay. The whole movie's gay.
Oh.
him becoming. And coming out, like, he goes and he gets terrorized by his gym teacher at a gay leather club, right? And you're like, I guess I didn't pick up on that, but it really is in there, right? I love the character. I love Robert Englund. I love Freddy Krueger. And here's the thing. If they announced they were going to reboot it again with a good director and, like...
Well, it's a rumor.
Even Jackie Earle Haley. Get him back. But like we were talking before the show started, his makeup is too smooth and like it doesn't look right. Freddy had a look.
Yeah.
A real distinct, like, pizza look, right?
But I think they kind of wanted his face to look more melted as he really got burned.
Screw reality. He's a guy who lives in your dreams. If he can manipulate your dream world, why would he make himself look like that? If I did, I'd go, welcome to the dream world. Oh, I'm George Clooney, right? Why would you look like a monster? You ever seen Wes Craven's New Nightmare?
Yes.
God, people don't even know that movie exists.
Really?
That's a masterpiece.
It
okay,
is.
so after Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare, which was made by somebody else because it doesn't say Nightmare on Elm Street in it. It's a totally different movie. And it was in 3D, remember?
Yes.
The end was in 3D. When she puts her glasses on, you put your glasses on too. You're in the dream world, yeah. And they encountered Roseanne Barr. So what happened was Wes Craven in like 96, 97 goes to the studio and says, I want another crack at it. Okay. And they let him do this meta movie about making a nightmare movie where Heather Langenkamp plays Heather Langenkamp and Robert Englund plays Robert Englund and Freddy's real. And he's got a trench coat and a hat and more importantly for all us nerds, he's got the glove from the poster of the first movie. That bony looking thing. Yeah. That is such a badass movie that just remake that.
Yeah.
Right? Remake that if you want to remake something. Or better yet, get somebody in a room like me, like you, who loves the character and wants to make this, it's going to sound terrible, the Marvel version of a Freddy Krueger movie, where he's a total badass, and it's fun, and there's quips, but there's also the heroine, because like Heather Langenkamp, Nancy in the first one, by the end, she's figured it out. She drags his ass into the real world and has all these Home Alone traps to beat his ass. It's such a good, solid movie. And for a guy like me who idolized Winona Ryder and then watched her date Johnny Depp, he dies horrifically in the movie. So I used to watch that a lot.
And we have one more after this, Fright Night.
Yeah,
that came out in 1985. Yeah. And he said they tried.
Yeah. God, Fright Night's so good. And the sequel, the underrated sequel, is so good too.
Yeah. Well, I did see that. I didn't really like that one.
Yeah, but I just love that world, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
And Roddy McDowall is so good. Is Peter Vincent, vampire killer. Well, when he's like shaking and opening his bag, you're like, this guy's in over his head. But the remake, what were they thinking?
But the remake with Colin Farrell, you know, for what it was okay. It got really good reviews, though.
Here's what I think, and I'm just a guy, you know, who lives in his basement, right? The problem they have with these movies is, first off, you go out on the street and you go, hey, what'd you think of the remake of Fright Night or the remake of Total Recall? And they go, oh, are those coming out? Right? Yeah. Most people don't even know. There was a $200 million Total Recall remake that nobody saw. And that's unfortunate. I mean, Robocop, you know what they're doing to Robocop? They're just going to do another one. They're going to pretend the remake didn't even exist.
It was pretty bad.
Right. But all they need to do, and this studio people, if you're listening, take a lesson from Ghostbusters. Take a lesson from... Wait, I'll get to it. Take a lesson from Fright Night. All you have to do is do a couple of lines of dialogue that reference the other movie. And we're good.
Just that easy.
If Leslie Jones had driven up and said, oh, my dad Winston gave us all this equipment. Boom, we have a connection. You know, because the remake of Fright Night took place in Las Vegas, right?
Yeah.
That's brilliant. Because the city comes alive at night, and where else would a vampire be more at home than Las Vegas? That's fantastic. But if he goes and makes just some reference to Charlie or Evil Ed, like just some reference, right? That says that they're connected and they're part of the same cinematic universe, right? But that it's not. The problem we have is that a lot of us have ownership of these movies. I watch these movies, and it's like I say about Back to the Future. I'm not watching movies. I'm spending time with friends. These movies are friends of mine. You know, when I watch Fright Night, I know those people. Because I spent 30 years with them. And the new guy comes along and goes, oh, by the way, that thing you like, we're remaking it, stupid man. And you're going to love the new one. No, I don't love the new one. Why don't you just make a sequel? Just connect them. That's all you have to do.
Well,
then we're okay with it.
Well, I think what they're trying to do when it comes to remakes and reboots, they're trying to make them for today's audience.
Yes, I totally get that. Here's the thing. When you're a studio head and your job depends on the financial outcome of these movies, are you going to greenlit the movie that nobody's heard of or the movie that you own that you know people have watched for the last 30 years? If I said, hey, I want to make a movie about kids finding pirate treasure called, The Kitty Treasure Map or Goonies 2, you're always going to go to Goonies 2.
Yeah.
The name recognition alone is what it's all about, right? I totally get that. All I'm saying is stop with this idea that you're just going to shred the original. And I'm talking about Total Recall, Robocop, Ghostbusters, the upcoming Gremlins, which is supposed to connect.
Well, I don't think they actually shred it. I think it makes people go back and see the original. Like, what is lost here, let's go find it. I think it kind of helps.
But we always have the original. You don't need to remind me to watch it. I'm going to watch it anyways, right?
Yeah.
But if you made a movie like, like Back to the Future 2 is so good because it goes back into the first movie. All that stuff we loved, hey, here it is again from the other angle, right? But I just think that they've lost their way in these remakes. And when you look at so many of them that come out, and they're just blips, and they should be big pop culture events, and they're not. But the same thing happens with original stuff anyways. Like, did you see Ender's Game?
It sounds familiar. But
right, exactly. It's a $300 million movie starring Harrison Ford and Ben Kingsley, and based on a book everybody read back in the 80s. And these movies have no resonance, right? And it's so weird because we live in such a disposable culture that it's got to be special to stick around, right?
Yeah.
It's got to be special to stick around. And there's so many good horror movie franchises out there that deserve a remake. And when they get them, they're so bad. Like, did you ever see The Haunting in '99? Are you going to bring that one up? With Liam Neeson?
No, I wasn't going to bring that up, but I did see that.
Like, it's terrible, right?
Well, it was okay.
But the first one's so scary.
The whole thing was just CG. Like, completely.
That's the problem.
I think that's when the computer effects started to really work out. So.
Did you ever see Cube?
Yes.
Like, that's a cool movie.
Yes.
If somebody came up and said, we're going to make another Cube movie for $200 million, hell yeah, let's go see that. You know? So,
the last one is Night of the Living Dead. That came out in 1968 and was a remake. It's not a reboot in 1990, and the director was Tom Savini.
Yeah.
So
featured a cameo by Chris Gore as one of the zombies.
So I thought that's another one like The Thing, that it was perfection. Tony Todd played Ben. I mean, and he went to the movies to see the original, and he wasn't an actor yet. And so he said that kind of wanted him, when he saw the original, he wanted to be an actor because he never seen a black man be a star.
Yeah.
So, and then he got into it, and then he auditioned, and he got to act in one himself.
I met Tony Todd a couple of times. Yeah, he's a really cool dude.
He is really cool. So, I thought Tom Savini did a wonderful job paying homage, but he kept the story.
Yeah.
So, I have to commend him on that. But he's like a special effects genius.
Oh yeah, pioneer. He's a pioneer.
He is
with that really soft voice, you know. Because you see Tom Savini and you see his work and you expect him to be like this. Okay, we're gonna take. Like, so yeah, we've got these blood syringes. And we're gonna poke these through here. The blood. You're like, he's so normal. He's such a normal. He did an interview on the Gilbert Gottfried podcast for like an hour, and he was just so gentle. Oh, yeah, we took the guy's head off, and, we did the chest cavity. Because he was talking about that scene in Dawn of the Dead, where they ripped that guy apart. Yeah. And it's so visceral, right? Hey, we'll put some pig entrails in there. He's just so normal about it. It's like another day at the office. And I love that, you know.
So, actually, that's the end. Oh, wait, there was one more movie, Poltergeist.
Yeah. Which they remade, and it bombed. What do you do? What do you do with these movies? They put all this work into these movies.
That was the
and
second
they bomb.
The remake. I'm sorry. I rarely say a horror movie is terrible, but that one was terrible. That was so bad.
Well, last year there was another, not a remake, but there was another sequel to the Amityville Horror.
Yes.
And it garnered a world record. Lowest grossing wide release movie of all time. I think.
Is that one with Ryan Reynolds?
No. There was another one after that.
Oh, there was?
Yes.
See, I didn't even know.
Nobody did. Its opening weekend total was like $600 or something. Like you can make more money recycling cans than making an Amityville movie.
That is
right. Isn't that ridiculous?
Okay.
Well, let me ask you this.
Okay.
Because you're a horror expert. Is the zombie genre? Have we said everything we need to say about it? Is because we've had Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead. George Romero came back and did what was that? The one in the snow called City of the Dead or
City of the Dead. We did
like,
The Crazies. Which is kind of like zombies.
We've got The Walking Dead on TV and Warm Bodies where there was a zombie love story and iZombie where she's a detective. What is left to say about the zombie genre?
Well, I saw a zombie movie last night that really got me. It was so different. They made shrines. They were zombies where they watch you. Am I right? They kind of like... They stare at... They don't necessarily come at you. They stare at you. And if you make sudden movements and things like that, then they come at you. But they also was building shrines.
What's it called? That sounds great.
The Ravenous.
The Ravenous.
It's on Netflix.
I'll watch that. Okay.
Yeah, it's completely different. It's a French-Canadian film. And it took you to a different level of... zombies.
Yeah.
And also The Train to Busan. Yeah.
Like Korean
Horror movie. Oh my goodness. Now, those zombies were something else. And they didn't use any special effects. They used a lot of contortion, body movements. It was really interesting. But
I mean, how many zombies? We've seen so many of them. Even before Walking Dead made them vogue again, right? Like Serpent and the Rainbow. You ever seen that? Where they bury Bill Pullman. He's like, "Don't bury me! I'm not dead!" And they're like, "There you go, pal." Or like, I was watching a documentary about the differences between Last Man on Earth and I Am Legend. Because The Last Man on Earth is with Vincent Price.
Yeah.
And that was the first movie to feature the zombies that we know as zombies. They're just mindless. Oh, Because in the remake of Last Man on Earth, the Omega Man, they have like a cult and they're like wearing robes and stuff, and it's like, I mean, that's a good movie, but they're not zombies. And then in I Am Legend, they made them like vampires where they can't go in the sun or anything, right? They can think, they're not mindless. But like, where do we go now with zombies? Because there's a company called Legion M, and I'm going to do a plug for them. Yeah. Legion M is this self-financed movie studio, right? Where they're letting fans invest in the projects that they want to do, and if they're hits, you get a check. I mean, that's pretty cool. So they had this thing where at Kamikaze, not 2017, but 2016, where you could go in and pitch a movie.
Yeah.
So I pitched a zombie movie, and then they let people vote, and I made it to the top 30.
Oh, wow.
So apparently they're going to have some sort of online reality show now where people's movie pitches are pitted against each other and they're going to let people vote again. And if you make it to the end, they're going to hopefully make the movie. So what was interesting is that people took it and, like, because you could do it at home, they made movie trailers. Here's the movie we want to make. We're going to make a trailer for. It's just me staring into a camera, pitching the movie. So mine's a little more organic, right? But as far as zombies, I wanted to do the last zombie movie ever. You know what I mean? Because we've seen them all.
Yeah, we did.
In World War Z, they're like ants, and they're like, whoa, you know, like piranhas.
That was pretty scary, though.
Oh yeah, no, I'm not saying it was bad.
They changed quick, and they were sprint runners.
Yeah, they were coming after you. 28 days later, they're like, the blood goes in their eye, and they're like, ah, I'm gonna kill you. But I mean, did you read World War Z?
I didn't read it.
Oh, no. The movie has no relevance to the book other than the title, right? They bought the title and made a movie. Because the World War Z, the book is totally different. It's like, what would happen if there was a zombie outbreak? For real. You know? And some of this stuff, because the guy who wrote it is Max Brooks, who's Mel Brooks' son. And some of the stuff in there is like, no one's ever thought of that before. Because, like, they come across a cruise ship where everybody on the cruise ship turned into a zombie. And not only is the cruise ship crawling with zombies, but they went overboard. So by the end of the book, even though the world has finally come back from the brink of extinction, you can't ever go in the ocean again. Because the ocean's filled with zombies who just walk around waiting for you to swim. Right?
Oh, wow.
It's terrifying.
That does sound terrifying.
So I wanted to pitch the last take on the zombie movie. So here's my pitch, and you tell me if it's any good. We see these human survivors with shotguns, and and they're blasting the zombies, and the zombies are coming after them. It's wave after wave of zombies, and bang bang, and it's all totally real and gritty, right? And at the end, the good guys, they kill all the zombies, and they get away in like some futuristic van, and they're driving off, and then the camera moves over, and there's one zombie left, right? And that's the star of the movie. And you just see this dumb zombie walking across the desert. Because now there's nobody to eat. And nobody to fight, right? And what we see is, next to him materializes a ghost. And it's the ghost of the guy who died. Who can't get to heaven until somebody kills that zombie. So the whole movie is him going, I hate you. I wish you would die. And he's leading him like to cliffs and to humans, hoping he gets killed, but the joke is that the zombie never dies. So the guy is just left floating along, hoping. I mean, it's the most bizarre movie you've ever heard of.
It does sound bizarre and sad.
Oh yeah, totally. And like, I don't remember the end of the pitch. I have to watch my own pitch again because I did it totally on the fly. I just made it up. But like, I think he falls in love with another zombie girl because he knows like she's got a ghost too, or something. I don't remember. It was totally ridiculous. But the idea was to take the zombie genre and just stretch it as far as you could, right? Because there's that moment. Like, did you watch The Walking Dead?
Yes.
Like, I'm a big fan of The Walking Dead, but there's a point where you realize where you go, they're never going to get to civilization. They're never going to figure out why it happened or solve it. Why am I watching this? You know what I mean?
I don't think The Walking Dead. I think it's more of the characters than the actual.
Absolutely.
Like the situations.
But like Lost was, hope they get off the island.
Yeah. And
then they get off the island. You're like, hope they get back to the island. So.
But anyway, so that is the conclusion.
Is that game over? Where's the game over sign?
I put it away.
You put it away. She had a game over sign we were supposed to hold up. Now we'd hold it up and go, game over, man. I know, I'm ridiculous. It's all right.
So that is the end of Horror Movies and Beyond, reviewing horror movies for the living to understand the dead. I'm leaving with Jeff Tucker. He is amazing. He's funny. You are.
That's all right. I'm humble. I try to be humble.
Oh, okay.
I get accused of not being humble. So.
Either way, this was a fantastic episode.
Have you ever seen The Tingler?
The Tingler?
With Vincent Price?
It sounds familiar.
It's this old 50s horror movie where there's this big rubber like bug and it gets in you and you have to scream to get it out of you. And at one point they actually show a movie theater and Vincent Price goes, it's in the theater where you are. Everybody scream. And you're supposed to scream, ah! And that was the one where the seats were wired to shock everybody, so they all scream at the same. Like the Tingler was going to get you.
Oh, that would be really cool.
Remake the Tingler and make the seats vibrate. So that's my final word on it.
Okay. All right, and goodbye, guys.
See you next Wednesday.
Next Wednesday.
Finish?
Yeah.